If you struggle with the squatting because of the joint pain and the mobility issues, and this video is for you. In this video, you will learn a primal movement exercise for hip mobility and coordination to improve your squat. If you haven't watched my previous video, and be sure to watch it at the link below, in that video, I explain why it is important and helpful to practice fundamental movement patterns to improve your squat, and then also introduce 3 primal movement exercises. If you want to learn how to retrain your body and then movement safely and then effectively and then move better, subscribe to my channel and hit the bell to be notified when I post a new video every week. I am Taro Iwamoto. I am a Feldenkrais practitioner. With my backgrounds in athletic training, physical therapy, martial arts, and the Feldenkrais method, I have helped many people like you overcome and then move beyond the pain and the limitations. Now it's your turn, and let's dive in. So let's get into this exercise. You're going to be lying down on the floor, no shoes. You can have your socks on. And I will explain at the end why this exercise will help you with a squat, and instead of just practicing the regular squat. So let's go ahead and lie down. So feet flat on the ground. And the first part, I'm going to start with the right side, and put your left hand behind your head. And you can watch me for a second. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to begin to lift my right leg up. And at the same time, I'm going to lift my head with my left hand, so I'm not working too hard with my neck. And reaching my right hand from the inside of my right leg to grab the hold of my right foot from the outside. Okay? And then back down. So I'll go through it again. Lift leg up, right leg up, reaching my right arm from the inside of my right leg. And then I'm grabbing hold of my right foot from the outside of my right foot. There. And if you struggle to reach and you can't reach your foot, you're going to go through the same directions, but maybe you aim at your ankle or your lower leg, your shin. But if you can't grab your right foot, and trying to bend your foot backwards, so you're dorsiflexing your right foot. But if you're able to grab or reach your right foot, that is going to bring your foot into the dorsiflexion. And then back down. So you're going to repeat this movement practice until the movement becomes easier, a little smoother. So the focus is coordination. It's not just a repetition of flexing and lifting. It's not a stretching. Focus is to improve a coordination so that it becomes a one continuous movement instead of lifting, stretching, and then I'm lifting my head and reaching to do that. And that is not really going to help you. You're going to improve the coordination between your ankle, knees, hips, and your spine, ribs, and your head. This way. And be sure not to hold your breath. Holding your breath, it's going to make the movement patterns more inefficient. You're going to maintain your normal breathing patterns. You might find that it's easier to breathe out as you reach. Back down. And the reason why you want to flex your ankle to do this motion is, well, this exercise is for squat, right? To improve your squat. And this is the position that you're going to be in a squat, right? Ankles flexed, your knees bent, your hips are flexed. That's the position, somewhat. So you're moving that same movement patterns, right? So coordinating these same squat movement patterns, except you're now standing up. There. And once you improve the coordination, It takes maybe 10 to 15 repetitions somewhere. When you get tired, you stop and then just continue to practice until movement becomes a little bit smoother, easier. And then the next direction is going to be reach from the outside of your leg and back down. And notice this requires a very different movement over your spine and your hip. For some people, this is easier, and for some people, this is harder. For me, this is a harder directions and a harder movement pattern here. Because when you get into the squat, you don't get into the squat and then you don't just be in the squat. And it requires all different movements and angles of the hips, knees, and your spine as well, right? Your ankles. So if you only train to do the squats with the regular squats in the same way, up and down, and you may struggle to get into the squat and getting out of the squats, or moving from the squat positions and be more functional in that way. And once you learn that, and moving on to the other side, you switch hands and do the same sequence, reaching, right? You do both ways. Then after you've done both, each leg, and you're going to do both legs at the same time. Okay, so I'm going to start reaching my arms inside my legs first, here, and reaching, and grab my feet. You can lift your head up. And by the way, have you seen the babies holding the foot like that, and in this position? It's a pretty common baby positions, right? And you never thought about babies doing this one to prepare for squats, but there's a reason why they explore these movements, and this is helping them and to develop in the squat patterns later. Bring your legs down. Do it slowly, and you pay attention. And there's a difference between the right hip and left hip. One side moves maybe a little more smoothly than the other side. There's a difference. Also, you can notice the difference in the way your ankle bends and getting into these positions, right? One side is easier. And how is that going to affect your squats when you actually do the regular squats? It's going to show up in the same pattern is going to show up in the normal squats too. So you can pay attention. It's a lot easier to improve in a non-weight bearing position than under weight bearing positions. It's much harder to change that pattern. Okay, and then you're going to explore different patterns. You're going from the outside, right? Reach your arms from the outside of the legs. That's different, right? So the knees are going in, so now you're internally rotating your hips. That's a lot different. So for me, this is much harder. And for some people, this is much easier. But it would be helpful to be able to do it in both ways, just as easily. And then there's another pattern, so you go this way, left hand, left arm is inside of my left leg, and then right arm outside of my right leg. So you kind of turn and twist your legs a little bit. There. And back down. And here. And notice which side is the harder side. For me, going to the right is much harder. And you may be thinking you don't squat like that, but well, getting out of the squats. And this is a part of the squats. So squat is not about like finding a perfect technique and form and then you stay there. That's not a squat. Squat is, and just get into that position and then be able to actually function and like reading and eating and doing a functional and gardening. You can be doing a lot of things, but you don't really be in that position. You're constantly moving from a squat. So have the ability to move in a different positions in a squat. Very important. There. There. Okay, so this is the first part of this exercise. And then the second part, it's going to be about more isolated in the hip joints. So let's do both legs. You can do one leg at a time, but I'm going to do both legs at the same time. Reaching both hands here. Oh, I guess you can't really see that well. All right. From the inside my legs, and then when you do this one, so naturally bringing the legs up towards you, and it's going to move the pelvis backward directions. It's going to flex the spine, and move the pelvis in the posterior directions. But what you're going to do this time, stay there and then hold your feet or ankles in that positions, and then begin to roll your pelvis downward directions as if you're going to arch your back. But when you do that, you notice your knees want to move downward, right? And naturally, it wants to pull your legs downward. But hold your feet or ankles with your hands, and then keep your legs from moving downward as you move your pelvis. Roll your pelvis downward. It's not very easy, is it? And you're not talking about the big movement. And for me, it's a tiny, tiny movement. It's a very small movement. But can you feel that movements and it taking place in the deep hip joints? It's the movements in a deep, deep, deep hip joint. Small movement, but this is the motion that is very, very important in squats. And I'll explain at the end. So you can stick to this video to the end. All right. So just to practice rolling the pelvis downward a little bit, a micro movement, and sensing the movements of the deep hip joint. And then you let go. Repeat that a few times. And then switch your hands over. Now you grab a hold of your feet from the outside of your legs and then stay there. And the same thing, do that motion. Rolling the pelvis down and keeping the legs from going down because he wants to. Okay? The movement of the pelvis is going to pull your legs downward, but don't. Make sure you breathe. Important. Okay, repeat it 10 times or so, or until the movement becomes a little easier, and then change your positions. Right arm or the left arm inside of the left leg, right arm outside of the right leg, and hold that positions like kind of twisted asymmetrical squat positions, and then go through the same motion, rolling the pelvis downward. And it requires very different movements of the hip joints, right hip and the left hip, in asymmetrical positions. Kind of strange sensation. And you find maybe one side, one joint moves easier. You can feel more movement than the other. And then switch directions. Stay there. Keep your hands on your ankles or the feet, and keep your legs from moving downward while rolling pelvis downward, and let go. And repeat that 10 times or so. And this feels very different from the other side a bit. And that's it. Well, you can spend more time to go through this one. So the first part is focusing on improving the coordination. And then the second part, it is about differentiating or isolating the hip motions in a few different positions. And now, let me explain what this exercise is about, really. Why does this exercise help with the squat? If you fall backwards in squatting, and your center of the mass is behind at the base of support, which is around your feet, right? And then this could happen if your ankles don't bend enough, dorsiflex enough, okay? And if your ankles cannot bend enough forward, and that's going to move your center of the mass backwards, right? It makes it harder for you to stay in a squat. And also, it happens if your hips don't flex enough, and which is going to cause your pelvis to roll backwards, posterior pelvic tilt. and it's going to shift the weight to go backwards. Then you fall backwards, right? So if you have a hard time and staying in a squat, it could be the combination. It could be either or the combination of the both. So you can comment below ankle or hips or both if this is you. So you may be wondering why not just practice a regular squat instead of doing this exercise. And so if you struggle with the squat, it is very likely that you have developed an inefficient movement patterns. And if you have joint pain and mobility issues, and loading your joints with the regular squat and can only reinforce the same habitual inefficient movement patterns. But in a non-weight bearing position, you can unlearn your inefficient movement patterns and restore more efficient movement patterns more easily. And then you can progress towards a more weight bearing position. And so that way you can improve your squat patterns. If you want to improve your back pain, be sure to grab your free movement guide to pain-free back at the link below. Check out these videos, and if you like this video, and hit that like button, and be sure to subscribe and share with your friends. Comment below how helpful you found this video was. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video. Happy mindful movement. Bye bye.